All right, today we're going to be talking about the Adaptive Rapid Fat Loss Formula. This is our formula for how we get results for our clients, and it's the formula you can use to get results for yourself if you apply it the same way we do. So essentially, this formula comes down to two main components. So it's our initial assessment and custom plan. So this is where Bex comes in on our team. She's our technical lead coach, and she is making sure that the plan and the assessment is set up and custom to the individual. And then we take that, and again, Bex serves most of this role. We adapt the plan based on the results and based on your subjective indicators in order to make the plan work for you both on a physiological level and a behavioral level, because no matter how good your initial assessment is, there's going to be changes that need to be made because nobody is 100% predictable. Everybody's individual. There are a million variables that go into this, so we need to be adapting as we go, and this is why we call it adaptive rapid fat loss, not just rapid fat loss. Mm-hmm. So I guess to start off, why don't we go through the steps here, and we'll break down each step for how we go through those with our clients, and then this would be how you can apply it to yourself as well. So the initial assessment and custom plan creation, tell us a bit about that, how you go through that process.
Yes, so we have a bunch of initial components that we need, data that we collect from our new clients. So a very detailed questionnaire, initial, photos, and anything else like, so in terms of the assessment specifically, we're talking about everything from habits, history, dieting history, current weight, weight fluctuations, digestion issues or any symptoms that you might have, things like
food intolerances.
Food intolerances, all of that. Any obviously allergies or conditions or anything like that. Also, we go into a lot of the mindset and behavior and stress components to understand what your life outside of just your own personal body's like, right? We care about the environment that you're in. So we look into who's cooking the meals, to what your schedule and routine is like, to your current stressors and sources of friction. And also your overarching whys and the reason that you're going into this fat loss journey. It's important to understand what your motivators are, because in terms of those behavioral changes that we're working through, that's really important. So the initial assessment does that, and then I also assess the initial measurements and photos to look at body composition, because it tells me a little bit what could possibly be happening behind the scenes for why you're storing in one site more than another. So that's essentially the initial assessment.
So then once we've got that custom plan created, we give it to you, and then you follow it for a testing phase. So for the first week, first 2 weeks. And so again, if you're doing this yourself, you've got that plan you've created for yourself based on all those different factors that affect you individually. So what's your schedule? What are your measurements? All of that. And then you follow it for a couple of weeks and you observe and capture what we call your subjective indicators. So this is how much your hunger is, what your energy is, what your cravings are, how much willpower you are using, because we don't want to be creating a atmosphere for rebound weight gain by excessively using willpower, how sustainable it feels to you. So do you feel like you can actually be doing this for the next 10 plus years, or does it feel like something that you're just grinding through to get to that end of 8 weeks? We want to know all of those factors on the one side. And then on the other side, we want to know what are your actual results. So after a week, after 2 weeks, after 3-4 weeks, we want to know, are the results that are supposed to be happening based on the calories we've calculated actually happening? And if not, we need to adjust the plan. Or if your hunger, energy, cravings, willpower use, sustainability is screwed up, then we need to adjust the plan that way. So it's essentially finding this middle zone in between the two extremes, where if you go too low, your subjective indicators are going to be completely out of whack, or if you go too high, your results are not going to be happening. And based on that feedback, we can then come in and make an adjustment and optimize your plan to work for you to get you the results you want. And then the fun part, we get to repeat that process. So when we go in and make adjustments, based on our typical client, how many adjustments would you say we need to make? What's typical? What should somebody expect there?
2 to 4 at most, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so basically you get it dialed in after a couple of tries. So if you're doing this for yourself, expect to make a couple of changes, to have to update that plan, but after 3 or 4 or 2 to 4 changes, you should be at that plan that works for you. You should be seeing results. You should have those subjective indicators in a good place where you're not craving all the time, you're not hungry all the time, and stuff actually does work for you.
And I was going to say, it does depend on the client in terms of those types of adjustments, right? Some clients, they really thrive off of that step-by-step approach. So even if there could be 2 or 3 different variables we could tweak at one time, sometimes the client, would prefer, or it just works better for them if we tweak one variable at a time, and then we're looking at a couple different tweaks, whereas we potentially could have done all of those tweaks at one time, but sometimes that's too much adjustment and too much change for them to adequately adjust to. And so we always think long term, what is going to give them the best probability of success. And so
Right.
for your own plan and for your own success, think about the kind of person that you are. Are you someone that has the capacity to be able to make a large shift if you need to? Or are you someone that requires just small and subtle changes as you go along?
And then setting your expectations accordingly as far as how fast the change will happen. If you need those more slow and steady changes, it's going to be a slower journey. All right, so then to finish off with our adaptive rapid fat loss formula, let's go through the different components. So we have 5 key puzzle pieces. We like to use this puzzle analogy because we're putting together the puzzle of your sustainable fitness journey. And so talking about each of these 5 components, we've got our effective workouts, we've got our adaptive nutrition, so that nutrition that adjusts. We've got adequate hydration, minimal effective dose supplementation, so doing the supplements we need, but not going too crazy. You've seen the plans, I'm sure, where there are 15 or 20 supplements recommended, and it's impossible to sustain, so we want to stay away from that and just focus on what you really need. And then our rest and recovery. So the workouts and the nutrition, we kind of talked a bit about those in the physiology of fat loss video, but just to give a brief overview, let's go through those quickly.
Yeah. So to start off, in terms of workouts and nutrition, I would say it's kind of the Goldilocks method that I mentioned before. Not too much, not too little, just right. If a good thing is a good thing, more of a good thing always isn't a good thing. So we want that correct amount of effective workouts. We like to work off of that minimal effective dose to make sure that things are working as fast as they can without negative side effects. So effective workouts being anything between 30 to 60 minutes, 3 to 5 times a week, depending on what your schedule allows. Again, we want to utilize that minimal effective dose as a metric of maintaining as much consistency as possible. Because if we can generate more consistency than over intensity, then that's going to generate the best results from that fat loss.
All right, and then when it comes to the nutrition, we've got our 4 main drivers of satiety. So basically we want to make sure we hit that caloric deficit we talked about, and then we want to make sure we're managing satiety. So we're managing our blood sugar balance, our digestion, or our rate of digestion. We've got the level of palatability in the food, so how tasty that food is, and then we've got our caloric density, so how many calories per gram of food. And basically, if we can manage those 4 factors, then we can make sure that the nutrition actually works for us and that we're not in a state of being hungry all the time.
Perfect. For hydration, I'll give the formula. You can look it up anywhere in Google. It's your body weight divided by 2 plus 15. That's the number of ounces you need to drink of water. Yes, we can always look into quality of water, but bottom line is, let's, at the very basics, just get in water to start. Hydration, your body is made up of 70% water. It's used for every single type of reaction you could think of in the body in order for it to function properly. And so we need a proper and well-functioning body for anything to happen. Basic functions, let alone more executive functions, let's call it, as fat loss is. It's not the default function that your body wants to do. So we need adequate hydration to make all those things happen.
And then finishing off, so supplementation, our big thing here is basically just looking, is there any nutrient deficiencies? Is there anything we need supplement-wise that is going to make sure that our energy is at its best? There is chemical formulas that are part of fat loss, so if you're deficient in certain nutrients, it can affect the process. But for the most part, a lot of what we're looking at here is just making sure that you're sleeping well, that you're feeling good, and that we're not running into any major issues here. Supplements is not a huge focus of our program, but it is something you can kind of look at on the side, but it would be one of the least important pieces of these 5 puzzle pieces.
Absolutely. Supplements are not even going to work properly if you don't have those other foundational elements. So,
so particularly if you're doing this on your own, definitely supplements would be one of the lower tiers, and I would get professional recommendations or testing to know what you might need. There's baseline foundational supplements you can do, but for the most part, that's where I'd be looking. And then finishing off, rest and recovery. So we talked about this in the physiology of fat loss video. The big thing here is basically just making sure you're getting adequate rest and recovery so that you are actually burning fat and not burning muscle tissue or having a reduced metabolism or reduced activity.
Absolutely. Yeah, some stress is good, but chronic stress, not good. Right amount.
Awesome.